Good day and welcome to Digital Trailblazers. In this series, we delve deeper into digital transformation and the various sectors, key players and partnerships that make it a reality. In today's episode, we shift our attention to hearing healthcare services. Urix is a digital audio solutions provider that offers hearing solutions from practically anywhere. This digitally based tool provides screening and self-test solutions. Joining me now to understand the benefits of digitally transformed hearing aids in the greater healthcare sector are Anton Richter, HearX Group General Manager, and joining me online, Lorcan Brien, Salesforce Regional Manager for Growth Businesses in Africa. Gentlemen, welcome. Anton, I'm starting with you. Keeping in mind that we are talking about digital transformation, what is your business's vision and how do you aim to achieve it?
Thanks, Dewald. Great question. So HearX, being founded in 2016, is a medical technology startup based in South Africa, largely focused on providing healthy hearing for everyone everywhere. That is our vision statement, and how we aim to achieve that is through essentially bridging the gap between our consumers and the product that we offer. So just tapping into the product landscape and how we got there, we started off in 2016 essentially with a hearing screener application that was built into an assortment of B2B solutions and technologies that we provide across the entire world, in the majority to the audiologists themselves. What then initially or eventually spawned into the B2C division, which is my division, we realized that the screening is only the detection piece, but we also need to focus on the products themselves and getting that into the hands of the consumer who so desperately needs them. Now, what we've noted from an audiology industry perspective is that the products themselves are very expensive and that there's a large portion of the market who just don't have the funding or the accessibility to gain access to those solutions. That is how Lexi Hearing was born. Now, that is the brand under which we're selling our hearing aids directly to the consumer in the United States. What initially was an only DTC model has then over time evolved into an in-store and retailer brick and mortar rollout as well. About a year ago, we were in just over 300 Walgreens stores, and more recently with a large regulatory shift we saw in the United States, we are now in just over 12,000 stores across the country. The regulatory shift I'm speaking about is what they call OTC hearing aids, that's over the counter. So the industry itself saw this massive shift, which allows players like us to gain more access to get to that end consumer, to really tap the market at a price point that is a tenth of what you typically expect to pay when going through the traditional audiology route. That in itself is a large part of our journey. Of course, it wouldn't have been possible without really focusing on what digital transformation means for us as a company and making sure that everything we do from a solution, process and business perspective is really scalable, to make sure we just continue on the successes that we've built. To answer your initial question and how we were aiming to reach that vision, specifically speaking about the everywhere piece, we definitely have ambitious plans to expand into the global market, regulatory landscape permitting, of course, that being the larger limiting factor in what it is that we're doing. But we are hopeful that because of the shift in the United States more recently, that they are the pioneers and the drivers of this over-the-counter and direct-to-consumer hearing aid market, and we're hoping that the rest of the world will follow suit shortly.
Great. Now, Lorcan, coming to you, Salesforce walked this journey with HearX into its digital transformation journey. Paint us a picture of what that was like and what other companies can do to start this digital transformation journey.
Yeah, I think, look, we're privileged to work with great companies like HearX who are extremely focused about their customers. So customer centricity is a large part of digital transformation. And I think Salesforce does this incredibly well, empowering our customers to put their customers at the center of everything that they do, right? So when you think about what HearX has done and it's a competitive landscape, right? So, you need to compete not only on product, price, place, or promotion anymore. It's now competing on customer experience. So, putting your customer at the center of everything you do gives you the actual tools to be able to go and compete on experience. I think when we think about other companies looking to digitally transform, it is imperative that they try and think customer first. So if you're thinking about putting your customer at the center of your mission, that then makes that digital transformation much more clearer and much more achievable.
Now, Anton, Lorcan's saying here that you need to think about customer first. What additional advice could you give companies that want to start their digital transformation?
It's such a great question, Dewald, that I'm often posed with. Coming from an industrial engineering background, optimization and efficiency is definitely at the core of what I enjoy doing, and really getting bogged into the process of how something works and how you can scale that and how you make that more scalable in itself is something that's very fascinating to me. I think, in short, the advice that I would give to someone looking to start their digital transformation journey is just to start as quickly as possible. I mean, it's always a difficult conversation considering that you're starting off as a startup. A lot of what you're doing is manual process oriented. You're very much trying to just kind of get to next month's invoicing cadence, and it's not always possible to invest in enterprise type solutions as early on as you would have liked. But definitely, as soon as that opportunity arises, capitalize on that. Make sure that you don't get caught on the back foot, and make sure that that you're just always striving to continuously optimize what it is that you're doing. I think the analogy that comes to mind is almost like building a highway. Like initially you would just kind of start with the foundation and figuring out what works and how to make sure that that foundation is solid. But then as you start scaling, you definitely start building more lanes, additional lanes from a capacity perspective, making that highway or that pipe essentially bigger to accommodate more traffic, which speaks to the scalability aspect. And just to also allude to what Lorcan mentioned in customer centricity, I think in the age that we're living in, also post the pandemic world, we're definitely seeing that being one of the key drivers in brand success, is really having the customer at the center of what it is that you do. We're fortunate enough to have partnered with Salesforce at the right time, at the right place, to really be able to offer that to our customers, making that an intrinsic part of our service offering, and making sure that in no way the scale-up journey diminishes the kind of quality service that we provide to our end customer, which we absolutely care about.
Lorcan, now on this, I understand that digital transformation is imperative for businesses to grow and to keep up with trends. In your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that businesses face?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because if you asked me 12 months ago, the answer might have been slightly different. But I think we're in a bit of a new world now, and you look at the challenges that face all businesses across all geographies. It's that cost base. Okay, so I mean, cost-conscious operation is to the forefront of every boardroom, every C-suite, or even small businesses with, how they're operating. So we look at things like operational excellence. We look at efficiencies. We look at doing more with less. Okay, so that is a challenge, because if we have to look after cash, it means that maybe we don't get to deploy as much of our vision as possible. But I think if we focus back to my original point, you focus back to your customer centricity, because they will be going through challenges as well. What is most important to them? And then prioritize in accordance with that. I think if we do that well, that's where companies will win, while also being able to scale responsibly. Great companies like HearX are fortuitous enough to be addressing a market that is, very, very early in its growth. So I think for me, it's just about growing responsibly, keeping an eye on cash, looking at things like margin. That will be the biggest challenge moving forward.
Now, Anton, where in the healthcare sector do you see development needed to further grow, and where do you see your industry in the future?
Yeah, great question, Dewald. I think the healthcare space has largely seen extensive disruption in the last couple of years, especially considering what the lockdown essentially fast forwarded for the industry itself, and really having to focus on virtual care, telehealth, telemedicine. That has become a large part of what not only the healthcare providers need to focus on to remain competitive, but also what the consumers come to expect from these healthcare players. In addition to that, I think using tools like big data from a predictive analytics perspective to start identifying where patients might need interventional coverage, IoT devices, of course, from a patient monitoring perspective, potentially wearables like the smartwatches we have, tying that into your medical data and making sure that you're acting proactively as opposed to the reactive or responsive way in which we've seen the industry largely operating under. And then, of course, things like AI and VR. And just from a virtual reality perspective, a cool use case that always comes to mind is simulating medical procedures through virtual reality as a form of practice and education to people who haven't, or rather medical professionals who haven't had the opportunity to do so. So I think there's definitely a big play in the medical technology space, leaning into or tying into medical as an industry. And really just enhancing what patient care looks like, how that patient coverage is addressed, and then using the smart tools to make sure that you're providing the ultimate care to the customer. Tying that back into your second question, how that relates to our industry, I think there's a large amount of shift that has happened in our industry, more recently so with the regulatory landscape that I mentioned earlier. It really is just about getting the customer accessibility to the technology. What we've seen in the past is really there's a large portion of the market who just don't have either the funding or the accessibility to get their hands on the product. But also in addition to that, I think the industry in itself has been, how can I put it? It's not been accommodating to those individuals. There's also a large portion of stigma related to the products that we sell. That's an unfortunate piece. I think if you look at optical as an example or a use case, previously when we were much younger, wearing glasses was definitely stigmatized in a negative connotation. And more recently, people are wearing glasses as a fashion statement without any prescriptive lenses even being part of the glasses that they might be wearing. So that is what we're hoping for the industry as well. We're actively driving the thought leadership and education piece on hearing loss and also the comorbidities that it relates to. I mean, dementia being a massive player in hearing loss itself, and the amount of early onset dementia cases that can be avoided in just addressing your hearing health at a timely manner or a timely stage in your life.
Now, Lorcan, to bring this conversation to close and very quickly, in your opinion, what's been the driving force behind the transformation in the healthcare sector?
Yeah, I feel like a politician answering. I'm on message, but it is the customer centricity piece. Right? There is no other thing that is driving transformation like it, especially in the healthcare industry. Anton alluded to it just now. By knowing your customers, it becomes very, very clear what you must do into the future. So customer centricity is the driving force. We at Salesforce are on the leading edge of innovation around that customer 360. So cross-departmental alignment. It is about, no matter where your customer comes to you from, you know who they are, you're able to serve them to the best of your ability. Going back to that piece around experience, delivering an exceptional customer experience drives things like customer acquisition and retention all the way into the future. So that has to be the key thing for the healthcare industry, specifically knowing their customers.
Now, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me in studio to break down where your industry lies in the digital transformation. That was Anton Richter, HearX Group General Manager, and Lorcan O'Brien, Salesforce Regional Manager for Growth Business in Africa. And that's it for this episode of Digital Trailblazers. And until next time, goodbye.